My brother texted, "Send me your card info. Dad says you'll cover our Christmas trip." I replied, "No, I won't." The next morning, Mom messaged, "Don't be dramatic, I already used your account to book it." That night, I sent screenshots to the entire family group. By morning, my phone was exploding with 18 missed calls. It was extremely strange. My brother Derek and I don't text each other unless something's wrong, or unless someone in the family needs something from me, which, let's be honest, is usually the same thing. So when I saw his name light up my phone at almost midnight, I already had that sinking feeling. "Send me your card info. Dad says you'll cover our Christmas trip." I remember just staring at the message for a few seconds. Not shocked exactly, just frozen, like my brain was trying to make sense of what it was reading. I blinked and read it again. Same words. No, hey, no, how are you, no context. Just a demand that somehow felt like a command. I replied, "No, I won't." He didn't respond. Not a single word. No follow-up. No attempt to argue. It was like I'd shut down the whole conversation with just 4 words. But that silence, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the moment before something else dropped. The next morning at 7:06 a.m. my mom sent a message. "Don't be dramatic, I already used your account to book it." That's when I felt it. That tight pressure in my chest. Not panic exactly, but something colder. My hands were shaking, but I still opened my banking app. Gone. Over $3,000. The transactions were right there. United Airlines, Airbnb in Aspen, SUV rental through Hertz. The whole trip just booked. Paid in full. All under my account. They didn't even bother to ask. No warning. No discussion. Just decided among themselves that I'd pay for a luxury Christmas trip I didn't even know about. I didn't respond to the text. I didn't call. I didn't scream. I just sat there for a long time, scrolling through the charges, feeling this kind of numbness spreading through me. Then something clicked. I opened my messages. Took screenshots of everything. Derek's text, Mom's, the booking confirmations that had been forwarded to me by mistake. I even screenshotted the account balance before and after. And at exactly 9:01 that night, I dropped every screenshot into the family group chat. No explanation. No emojis. No passive-aggressive thoughts. Just cold, silent proof. Then I muted the chat, turned off notifications, and went to bed. By the time I woke up the next morning, I had 18 missed calls. Dead. Derek 5 times. Even my Aunt Stacy called, and I hadn't heard her voice in nearly a decade. I didn't answer a single one. Later that day, Derek tried texting again. Something short like "you need to chill," but I'd already deleted the entire thread. They thought they could just take what they wanted from me. So I decided to take something back. But I wasn't going to scream, beg, or argue. I was going to be calm. Controlled. I was going to let them sit with it. That was the day everything changed. And I wasn't done yet. After I sent the screenshots, I went silent. No dramatic exit, no rant, no "you'll regret this." Just silence. That's what messed with them the most. Because in our family, I was always the one who calmed things down, smoothed things over, played middleman. Not this time. I didn't answer calls. I didn't return texts. I didn't even open the family group chat. Just let the little notification bubble keep counting up. That Sunday came and went without me at the table. My seat was always next to Dad, across from Derek, and they always saved it for me like some cute tradition. I pictured them doing it that Sunday too, just in case I changed my mind. I didn't. Monday morning, I got a long email from Dad with the subject, "Let's be rational." The whole thing was exactly what you'd expect. That Derek's had a hard year, that we should support each other, that I was in a better position than most right now, and it was time to give back. It ended with something about how family means sometimes doing things we don't want to do. I archived it without responding. Wednesday afternoon, Mom showed up at my building. She didn't even text first. I only knew she was there because I saw her face on the security camera when the intercom buzzed. She stood at the gate for over 15 minutes, calling and texting. I sat on the couch and watched the screen. Didn't move. Thursday, I logged into my bank, disputed every transaction related to the trip, and shut the card down completely. Then I opened a new account at a different bank and moved every last cent. 2 days later, I got alerts. Refunds processed. Flights canceled. The Airbnb reservation gone. Car rental reversed. I didn't even feel satisfaction, not the kind you expect. It was more like flipping a switch off in your brain and watching everything go dark. That's when the group chat lit up like wildfire. "Mom, this is ridiculous. It was one trip. Get over it." "Dad, you've made your point." But freezing the account. "Really? Derek, well, just wow." Then him again, "You're not punishing us. You're embarrassing yourself." I waited a full day, then sent a single message. "Do not contact me unless it's to return what you took. Nothing else." Christmas came fast. I didn't decorate. I didn't even buy gifts. On Christmas Eve, I drove 2 hours north and checked into a little cabin I found online last minute. 1 bedroom. Firewood included. No Wi-Fi. No neighbors. That night, I cooked pasta on the tiny stove, poured a glass of wine, and watched the snow fall through the frosted window. It was the quietest night I'd had in years. Christmas morning, my phone had 0 new messages. Not one. It should have felt cold. But it didn't. It felt clean. I stayed up there through New Year's. By the time I came back to the city, I decided to let things stay quiet indefinitely. I wasn't going to chase after people who had no problem stealing from me. But they weren't done. On January 3rd, I came back from the grocery store and noticed something weird. My parking spot was empty. I live in a secure building. Only tenants have access to the garage. My car was always there. I thought maybe it was towed or moved for maintenance. I checked with the front desk. Nothing. Then I opened my text. There it was. A message from Derek. No apology. No warning. Just a photo of my spare key in his hand and my car in the background. Since you bailed on Christmas, I'm treating myself to a little drive. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. He'd taken my car. He knew exactly what he was doing. I didn't respond to Derek's message. I just stared at the screen, completely frozen. I thought maybe it was a joke. A bad one, sure, but something he'd undo in a few minutes when he brought the car back. Maybe he'd just driven around the block, tried to get a reaction out of me. But the hours passed. I checked the garage again around 9 p.m. Still empty. No sign of the car. I texted once, bring it back tonight, and left it at that. No response. Around 2 a.m. I woke up to the buzz of a new message. I already knew it was from him. I opened it. A photo. My car was crumpled against a light pole. The front end folded in, windshield fractured like spiderwebs. Airbags deployed. Bits of debris on the street. The caption underneath said, "Had a little accident. I'm fine. Your car's not." That's when my stomach dropped. I didn't even feel anger in that moment. Just a weird, numb panic. I called him once. No answer. Then I called Mom. She picked up on the 3rd ring. She already knew. Said he was in the ER. Broken arm, bruised ribs, a mild concussion. He was lucky, she said. He'd lost control on a wet road, apparently. Took a turn too fast. I didn't even bother changing out of my pajamas. I grabbed my keys, got in my boyfriend's car. Thank God he'd left it for me while he was out of town, and drove to the hospital. When I walked in, Derek was sitting upright in a hospital bed, eating vending machine crackers like this was all mildly inconvenient. One arm in a cast, some scratches along his cheek, but otherwise he looked completely untouched by the chaos he'd caused. I stood in the doorway staring. He looked at me and gave this weird little smile like he expected a hug or a joke. I didn't say anything for a full 30 seconds. Then I asked the only question I could even form. Why the hell would you take my car? He shrugged. Said something like, you weren't using it, and I just needed to get out of the house. And my favorite part, it's not like I meant to crash it. That's when I walked out. Mom followed me into the hallway talking fast. About how it was just a mistake, how boys do dumb things, how I should focus on the fact that he was okay. I told her flat out, I'm done. You and Dad do what you want, but this isn't family. This is theft, entitlement, and now destruction. And I left. The next few days were weird. I went to work. I went home. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't tell friends, didn't mention it to my boyfriend when we FaceTimed. I just didn't know how to explain what it felt like, to have your own brother crash your car and act like it was a speed bump, while your parents looked at you like you were being too harsh for not rushing to forgive. Then out of nowhere, Dad called. I let it go to voicemail. A few hours later, I listened. He started by saying he wasn't calling to ask anything. He said he just wanted to apologize. He didn't try to defend Derek, didn't say, but he's young, or, but he was stressed. He said they were wrong. That they let things slide too long. That they'd gotten too used to treating me like a backup plan when they should have treated me like a daughter. And then he said something that actually stuck. You don't owe us anything. But we owe you a lot. We're going to fix this. Not ask you to help us fix it, just do it. I didn't call him back that night. But for the first time in weeks, I actually exhaled. 2 days after Dad's voicemail, I came home to a box outside my door. No return address, just my name written across the top in Dad's unmistakable handwriting. It was weirdly heavy for its size. Inside was a thick manila folder with insurance documents and a few printed forms. At first, I thought it was just boring paperwork, until I noticed everything had Derek's name on it. There was a claim for the car, a reimbursement schedule, payment plan details. Apparently, he'd gone through his employer's HR to pull from a hardship fund and was planning to make monthly payments to cover the damages. It was official. Not a symbolic, I'll pay you back, but actual steps. Under that, there was a typed letter. Not printed, typed. On Dad's old typewriter. He used to mess around with it when I was a kid, writing bad poetry or typing out grocery lists just to hear the clack of the keys. It was a long letter. 3 pages, single-spaced. He admitted everything. From the trip to the card to standing by while Mom took my account info. He said they'd convinced themselves it wasn't theft because it was just for family, and they assumed I'd understand. He said he was ashamed of that now. That watching it all unravel and watching me pull away was what it took for him to realize how badly they'd screwed up. Near the end he wrote, "We thought you'd always bounce back because you always did. But you shouldn't have had to. You're not our backup plan. You're our daughter." I don't cry easily. But I had to sit down after that. A few days later I got a text from Mom. Just one sentence. "Let's have dinner." No talk of money. Just us. I almost ignored it. But something about how simply she said it made me curious. I said yes. We met at this quiet place not far from my apartment. I showed up with zero expectations, half thinking she'd corner me into another conversation about forgiveness and moving on. But she didn't. Derek was there wearing a sling and looking like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't say much. Honestly, I didn't say much either. But the energy was different. Quiet, almost embarrassed, like everyone had finally run out of ways to justify themselves. Dinner wasn't magical. No hugs. No laughs. But it was calm. And for once, no one expected anything from me. When we walked out, Dad pulled something from his coat pocket and handed it to me, an envelope. Inside was a check. I looked at the amount and felt my stomach turn. It was more than enough to cover a used car, probably even a decent down payment on something new. He said, "It's from your mother and me. We sold a few things. You don't owe us anything. This is us trying to show that." I didn't say thank you. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. That night, Derek showed up at my apartment. No text. Just a knock. When I opened the door, he held out a wrinkled note and a plastic bag of snacks. My favorite chips, some cheap candy, and a bottle of lemon soda we used to drink as kids. The note was sloppy but honest. He apologized without blaming anything. No stress, no pressure, no excuses. He said he missed having a sister and hoped I'd stop hating him eventually. He didn't stay. Just handed it over and left. That night, for the first time in months, I didn't feel like everything in my life was balancing on the edge of a knife. I still wasn't ready to trust them again, not completely. But something had shifted. The next week things stayed quiet. Almost too quiet. Then early Thursday morning something happened. I stopped to get gas before work. My card declined. Weird but not alarming. I figured maybe I used the wrong one. I pulled up my banking app. That's when I saw it. 3 transactions from that morning. Each one over $180. A resort. A luxury property in California. A full spa package. All listed under my new account. The account only 3 people knew about. Me, my bank manager, and Mom. She wasn't supposed to have access anymore. I'd moved the money, closed the old account, started fresh. But months earlier, during a time when I was too trusting and she'd convinced me she needed it just in case, I'd given her the login. Apparently she still had it. I stared at the screen, completely still. It wasn't just the money. It was the timing. The note. The dinner. It all felt like a setup. But then I called the resort. Just to ask who made the booking. And that's when it got worse. Because the reservation wasn't under her name. It was under Derek's girlfriend's. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just sat there in my kitchen with my banking app open, the resort email pulled up, and my heart hammering like something was about to burst through my chest. 3 transactions. Over $600. Spa package. Ocean view suite. 2 guests. Paid in full. Under Samantha Hollins. Derek's girlfriend. I hadn't even seen her since Thanksgiving, and even then she barely said a word to me that didn't include something like, "OMG, we should totally hang out sometime." But now she was using my money like it belonged to her. And the only person who ever had the login to this account, this new account, was my mom. Not even my boyfriend knew I had moved everything to a new bank. I'd opened it quietly out of pure survival instinct after the Christmas theft. I hadn't even used it for anything other than bills and rent. It was supposed to be mine. Safe. I didn't call. I didn't send a text. I got in the car and drove to my parents' house like a storm system. No warning. Just 22 minutes of pure silence, the kind that tightens in your jaw and builds into something sharp. Mom was in the kitchen. She looked up from her tablet like I'd just arrived for brunch. Said, "Oh, hi honey," like everything was normal. I didn't sit. I didn't even close the door behind me. I asked her straight up if she'd shared my bank information. Her face flickered, not guilt, not quite surprise, but something in between, like someone caught walking out of a room they weren't supposed to be in. She tried to deflect. "What are you talking about?" Then when I didn't move, she said something about how she might have forwarded the login once a long time ago, And thought you would have changed it by now. I blinked. That was her defense. That it was my fault for trusting her. She added like it was nothing, I figured you'd want to do something nice for Derek after everything. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was the only thing that made sense in the moment. Then Dad walked in, coffee in hand, and stopped mid-step when he saw my face. He didn't even have to ask. I turned to him and said, Mom gave my banking info to Samantha. She used it to book a luxury weekend for her and Derek. My money. He went still. Not shocked. Not angry. Just disappointed. In that way where someone you love quietly realizes they can't defend you anymore. He turned to her and asked, You actually gave her the login? She said it again. It was just once. I didn't think she'd use it like that. That was it. That was her defense. I told them both calmly that I'd already frozen the account, filed a report with the bank, and contacted the resort. Then I said something I hadn't said before but had thought 100 times. You cross another line like this and I will file charges. I don't care if it ruins the family. I will do it. Then I left. I didn't answer any of their messages. Mom sent half a dozen apologies that all sounded like someone trying to write from a PR crisis handbook. Derek sent a one-line text. She didn't know it wasn't your money to use. I nearly threw my phone. It wasn't until 4 days later that something shifted again, completely out of the blue. A rainy Monday morning. I was halfway through my coffee at work when the receptionist called up. There's a guy here for you. Won't leave unless you talk to him. Says it's family. I almost told her to send him away. But curiosity won. It was Derek. Standing in the lobby, soaked to the bone, holding a folder. No girlfriend. No smugness. Just him looking exhausted. I didn't say anything. Just looked at him. He handed me the folder. Inside was a wire confirmation. A full reimbursement. $3,000 wired from his personal account to mine. I looked up, stunned. He said one thing. I'm done protecting them. I should have been done a long time ago. Then he turned and walked out. I stood there for a long time holding that folder, not knowing what to feel. Relief? Anger? Some twisted sense of closure? I had no idea. But something in me finally started to unclench. After Derek walked out of my office, soaked, silent, and somehow more honest than I'd ever seen him, I sat at my desk and stared at the wire confirmation for a long time. I kept refreshing the app like maybe it was a mistake. But it wasn't. $3,000. Every cent they'd taken. Back in my account. No conditions. No request for forgiveness. Just action. Didn't fix everything, not even close, but it was the first thing that actually felt like change. 2 days later, Dad called. I ignored it the first time. Then he sent a text. Just me. No agenda. I'd like to talk. We met at a park I used to go to when I needed space from the world. He remembered. That alone said something. He brought coffee and didn't waste time with small talk. He told me straight up they'd messed up. That he knew I probably saw them as selfish, manipulative, even pathetic at this point. And that he couldn't argue with any of it. Then he said something that stopped me. We leaned on you because we knew you'd catch us. And we never stopped to ask what that did to you. He didn't ask me to forgive. He didn't ask me to come home. He just sat there in the cold, waiting. Before I left, he handed me a small envelope. I waited until I got back to my apartment to open it. Inside was a check, not huge but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to say we're trying. The memo line read, Vacation Fund. Yours. No instructions. No guilt. That night I told my boyfriend everything. Every detail, every messy turn since Christmas. He didn't say much until the end. Then he asked, Do you want to get away for a while? I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. A week later, Mom texted. It was short. We're planning a trip. Bar treat. You're invited. Your boyfriend too. I hope you'll come. I didn't respond right away. I didn't trust it. But then she sent over the full itinerary, booked flights, hotel confirmations, even a rental car. All on their card. For once they hadn't touched my account. They hadn't even hinted at it. We flew to Oregon, coastal town, quiet cabins, rainy mornings. It wasn't flashy. There weren't grand family moments or long emotional talks. Just space. Conversations that didn't turn transactional. Laughs that weren't forced. The second night, Derek pulled me aside. Just the two of us sitting on wet porch steps after dinner. He looked at me and said, I don't know what I was doing. I thought you'd always bail us out. I thought you were supposed to. Then he said, I don't expect you to trust me again. But I'm gonna act like I've earned it until I actually do. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. That was the moment I forgave him. When we got back home, I reopened one of my old accounts. Not for them but for emergencies. I gave my parents very limited access with tight controls and alerts. Not out of obligation, but because I saw something shift. Not a full fix. but real change. And for the first time since all of this began, I felt like we weren't just a family that survived something. We were building something new, not perfect but honest. And this time I wasn't footing the bill. They invited me to another trip, planned for December. Christmas in Colorado. Paid in full. No surprises. They even invited my boyfriend. This time I said yes. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. It's been about a month since the Oregon trip and I really thought that was it. The reset, the new chapter. I wasn't expecting anything more dramatic. I was even starting to get used to the idea that things might actually stay good. But then last weekend something happened. I got a call from my mom on a Saturday morning, which used to mean she wanted something. This time she was breathless. She said she and Dad had just come back from the bank. At first I assumed something had gone wrong. But then she said, "We're setting up a trust account. For you and Derek." I was confused. I asked her why. She said, "Because we're finally in a place to give something back. And we want to make sure if anything ever happens to us, you're protected, not obligated." It didn't feel real. Then she told me how it happened. After everything with the car, the vacation, the fallout, Dad had started selling off part of his old business. Something he'd been sitting on for years, too stubborn to let go of. But apparently the buyers came back with a better offer than expected. So now they were paying off debts, downsizing and planning for a future where they weren't leaning on me or hoping I'd fix things. She said, "It's your turn to just be the daughter now." And then the real twist came. Derek called me later that night. He said Samantha was out. Gone. After everything, he finally realized she'd been part of the problem all along. Not just the resort charges but the attitude, the constant entitlement, the way she encouraged him to take what wasn't his. He told her he was done living like that. He's going back to school. Trade work. Said he's tired of chasing quick fixes. I didn't expect to feel proud. But I did. And then one more thing. They showed me the booking for the Christmas trip. Real. Fully paid. Colorado cabin, Christmas through New Year's. Fireplace, snow, everything. My boyfriend's invited and they even asked if I'd want to bring a friend or two their treat. Asked why. Dad said, "Because we want to end this year better than we started it. And we want you to be part of that. Not as a safety net, not as our fixer, just as Jane." So yeah, that's where we're ending this. The year started with a stolen trip and a stolen car. It ends with real peace, a real plan and a real family. This time the only thing I'm bringing to Christmas is my suitcase. And I'm finally okay with that.